What's up, everybody? It's your boy AT2 here, and I want to talk about Diddy, but more or less, I want to talk about the women that he was with, specifically Cassie, Jane Doe, and others. But let's just focus on those two. Now, in no way, shape, or form am I saying that these women were not victims. However, these women enjoyed the lifestyle that they were living. At what point do you have self-respect and go like, hey, I'm not doing this. This isn't right. We can call it love. And I'm not denying that they were in love with this man at one point. But these women wanted to live this certain lifestyle. Jane Doe was getting $10K a month for her rent. Now, don't forget, Jane Doe had to go into credit card debt just to put furniture. So Diddy, being the cheap bastard that he is, literally only paid her rent, but didn't hook her up with any furniture or anything like that. Let's just talk about this for a minute. With Jane Doe, you literally was only getting $10K a month, getting your rent paid, went into debt to buy furniture, but that's all that you got? You didn't start a business? You didn't at least put some money over to the side? Mind you, Diddy is still paying your rent, but when this verdict come out, that's probably all going to end. But you didn't hustle, you didn't flip the money, and mind you, you are getting child support. Where is all that? Literally, what are you doing with the money? You literally played yourself. Now, you can call it love all you want to, but I don't call that love. Hey, if that's love, I don't want that. But instead of her putting her time and effort into building a business, she was just one of Diddy's sex slaves. And I hate to put it that way, but that's what she was. Because the only time he would talk to her was to do the Freakoffs, was, hey, where are you? Can you call them in and, link us up? Let's have a hotel night, as they call it. That was the other name for the Freakoff. But it was literally only around sex. There's no way that you could have thought this was a relationship. Could there be moments of where it was just you two and he would be romantic? Yeah, but according to your testimony, it all ended up with having some kind of freak off at the end of the night. And that's the sad part, that you didn't love yourself enough to be all like, hey, I'm done with this. This is over. I can't do this no more. At one point, there was a no. I will say that. From the testimony, we've seen that there was refusal at times. But essentially, you gave in to pressure and still continue to do it. Because there was even a moment where Diddy said, hey, I'll pay your rent for 3 more months and then you're cut off. But instead of just saying, hey, no, I'm done. That's fine. You pay it for 3 months and then I'll figure something out. You went back to doing it. Because Jane Doe was even having freak-offs with Diddy up until the point he got arrested. Now, mind you, Jane Doe knew everything that Cassie had been through because she even read the lawsuit. Now, at this point, when the lawsuit dropped with Cassie, I would have been out. I think most people would have been out like, hey, I ain't down with this. I'm leaving. I'm out of here. But no, you read that lawsuit. But you did stop for at least 3 months dealing with him, but then went back again. At what point do you have self-respect and be like, hey, this ain't right. And I know this ain't right. Especially after Cassie got her money. I would have definitely known. Now, I will give you credit, because Diddy tried to pay you a little hush money. It was all like, hey, how much basically to keep your mouth shut and not say anything after Cassie lawsuit dropped? You said a couple of $100,000. He said, oh, no, you trying to extort me. Now, at that point, I would have thought about a lawsuit of my own to file against him, because obviously he was willing to pay you, but not as much as you was asking for. But again, at least he continued paying your rent, right? A lot of these girls wanted to live this lifestyle, And granted, in Cassie's situation, he wasn't putting out any of her music. She was barely working. She did a couple of red carpets, a couple of movies that went straight to DVD. But other than that, she wasn't really working. Her job was literally to be Diddy's sex slave. It's like, at what point do you go, no, this ain't right? No, I'm not going to do this. But again, that lifestyle. And granted, if you don't come from money and you're not rich, you're going to be willing to do things that most people wouldn't do. You know how it is to be hungry. You know how it is to struggle. And after you had the taste of that Hollywood lifestyle, you don't want to go back to the streets. So I understand why the girls probably continued. And I'm not saying that, again, they're not victims of something. I don't want anybody to get that misconstrued. But there were points in this whole case where the women had the opportunity to leave. They had the opportunity to say no. They might have said no a few times, but they gave in more times than saying no. Now, there's a lot of people who will argue, well, AT2, what do you do if somebody basically has control over your life? And I get that, because what a lot of abusers do, they isolate you. They isolate you from your family. They isolate you from everything that you know. We've seen that. But at what point do you say, like, none of this is worth it? I don't want to live like this no more. This is not the life that I want to live for myself, or hell, in some cases, even for their children. That's not a life that you want to live. We heard Jane Doe say that she would have to rush and find a babysitter for her son so she can attend these freak-offs. If you have to rush and find daycare or childcare for your child to go basically off the grid, as they would sometimes call it, and do these freak-offs, that's a problem.
I want to talk about Gina real quick, because Gina actually was seen recently by TMZ, how conveniently, before the verdict came out, she said that she didn't think Diddy was dangerous and he never did anything dangerous to her. Mind you, this is the same woman who told Tasha K back in 2019, Diddy kicked a baby out of her. This either further confirms that, yeah, these girls are used to this kind of lifestyle. Mind you, I am not saying that Diddy is not dangerous and that these women weren't a victim of something, but the fact that these women would definitely sell themselves instead of going and getting a job just to maintain this kind of lifestyle and protect this sick man says a lot. This is a part of the celebrity culture.
And let's not forget, with Jane Doe, she has been tied to men in the industry. Jason Derulo, 50 Cent, Diddy, just to name a few. So this is a girl that has been in the industry, not for her talent, but probably for what she can do with these men. Sometimes you have to sit down and have a conversation with yourself and be all like, hey, self, this isn't what I should be doing. This isn't what I want to do. I know that there's more out there for me. Because at the end of the day, now we know your business. Now we've literally been in your bedroom. And trust me, there's a lot of detail that we did not need to know, but now we know. And I know it had to be embarrassing repeating or even hearing some of the stuff that you've been through or the stuff that you did. But again, to live that lifestyle that you wanted, you felt like, dang, I have to do this. In order to keep food on the table, keep my bills paid, keep living, I have to do this. And so anybody out there who's in an abusive situation, or maybe in a situation where they feel like they can't get out, there's always a way out. Please never feel like you have to do these things. A little self-love goes a long way. I'll rest my case on that one.